Strong hands were born before words learned to pray, before the world explained how heavy life can stay. They rose with the sun, cracked and dry with fate, carrying tomorrow while today still waited. Strong hands learned silence earlier than speech. They held back tears that came too close to reach. Every line on the palm became a hidden tale of storms survived, of courage grown pale. They lifted stones where dreams were buried deep. They built small hopes when the night wouldn't sleep. Strong hands never asked the sky for ease. They just kept working on wounded knees. They held a family together with threadbare care, mended broken days with whispered prayer. When words failed, hands learned how to speak in the language of labor, honest and meek. Strong hands smelled of soil, iron, and rain, of long days soaked in invisible pain. They trembled sometimes, not out of fear, but from carrying years too heavy to bear. These hands knew hunger, knew delayed rest, knew how to give others the very best. They opened doors they never walked through, just to make someone else's dream come true. Strong hands clapped softly at others' success, while hiding their own unfinished mess. They signed their name on tired nights, promising hope in shaking rights. They learned patience from waiting in line, learned faith from trusting the unseen sign. Every scar was a chapter, deeply engraved, a proof of the battles silently braved. Strong hands wiped tears without making a sound, lifted the fallen from unforgiving ground. They held grief gently, like fragile glass, never asking how long the sorrow would last. In winter, they cracked like broken earth. In summer, they burned, still proving their worth. Strong hands didn't complain to the passing air. They just kept moving, aware yet fair. They shook with rage they refused to show, choked back words they could never throw. Strong hands chose calm when anger screamed, chose reality over the life once dreamed. They fed the fire when hope grew cold, protected the young, defended the old. Strong hands learned love in the hardest way, by giving it all day after day. They carried memories heavy as stone, yet made the burden seem their own. They reached for others before themselves, left their own needs on forgotten shelves. Strong hands were never soft with fate, but gentle with hearts that arrived too late. They closed fists only to rise again, opening palms despite the pain. When the world judged by shining rings, strong hands held value in simpler things. A warm meal, a safe return, lessons learned without demand in return. They stitched tomorrow from yesterday's thread, worked while dreams quietly bled. Strong hands understood sacrifice well. It lived in every story they couldn't tell. They carried children on weary arms, shielded loved ones from unseen harms. Strong hands built shelter from broken plans, turned shattered moments into solid stands. Even in darkness, they searched for light, holding on to faith with all their might. Strong hands never claimed to be brave, they just did what the moment gave. They passed strength without naming its cost, never counting what they lost. Strong hands believed in the unseen good, trusted the road though misunderstood. When age arrived with silver pain, strong hands still worked in quiet rain. Slower now, yet deeply wise, carrying truth behind tired eyes. Strong hands will rest, but not in shame, for the world still breathes their name. Every life they touched will stand, a living echo of those strong hands. Strong hands learned to forgive the unseen blame, to smile softly while carrying silent shame. They waved goodbye to chances left behind, choosing duty over the comfort of mind. Strong hands learned the weight of a promise kept, of nights stayed awake while the whole world slept. They counted hours not by clocks or bells, but by the stories their aching knuckles tell. They pressed together when prayers felt weak, searching for answers they dared not speak. Strong hands trusted effort more than fate, believing work arrives before the gate. They held tools worn by relentless years, mixed with sweat, hope, and hidden fears. Every movement repeated like a vow. I will not stop, not then, not now. Strong hands shook when the future was unsure, yet they kept building something pure. They carved stability out of doubt, turned confusion slowly inside out. They learned loss early, learned it well, the kind that leaves no story to tell. Strong hands didn't ask, why me? They asked, "What now?" and bent their knee. They folded letters never sent, carrying words that time misspent. Strong hands memorized goodbye, long before learning how to cry. They paid for peace with borrowed strength, measured love in endless length. Strong hands kept standing when hope was thin, when the world looked rough beneath the skin. They held on to faith like a worn-out rope, frayed by doubt, yet tied to hope. Strong hands pulled others from despair, while hiding their own broken prayer. They taught children the shape of trust, in lessons carved from iron and dust. Strong hands showed how to rise from falls, without blaming fate or broken walls. They set examples without demand, led by action, not command. Strong hands believed respect is earned, from fires faced and lessons learned. They endured jokes they didn't deserve, bent but never lost their nerve. Strong hands absorbed unspoken blame, shielding others from quiet shame. They worked through sickness, through silent pain, through heavy loss and emotional strain. Strong hands said, "I'll manage somehow." Even when strength was breaking now, they kept going when love felt distant, when joy was brief and pain persistent. Strong hands stayed loyal to unseen roots, watered dreams they'd never shoot. They learned that strength is not loud pride, but steady steps and truth inside. Strong hands knew when to hold, when to let, when to forgive, when not forget. They refused bitterness, chose grace, even when life showed its cruel face. Strong hands carried warmth in the coldest days, lit dim paths in quiet ways. They wiped dust from forgotten hopes, untangled life's relentless ropes. Strong hands accepted the unseen role, to be the pillar, to be whole. They learned silence can scream the most, when words abandon you like ghosts. Strong hands bore that haunting sound, still planting courage in barren ground. They faced mirrors without disguise, met their flaws with honest eyes. Strong hands didn't chase applause, they followed purpose, not pause. They aged with dignity, scars on display, each one a truth no time could erase. Strong hands became maps of survival, paths of loss, strength and revival. They held the elderly, fragile and slow, returned the care they used to show. Strong hands closed circles life began, with the same love they always ran. They understood rest is not defeat, that tired bones still carry heat. Strong hands paused, yet never quit, they just learned how to sit with it. They trusted time more than revenge, let healing be their quiet avenge. Strong hands released what hurt the soul, choosing peace as their final goal. And when one day they finally rest, laid gently upon a patient chest, the earth will know their honest worth, for strong hands helped rebuild this earth. Strong hands remembered names the world forgot, faces fading, stories tied in knots. They carried legacies no books could hold, passed down in gestures, quiet and bold. They tied worn laces, buttoned old coats, fixed broken chairs, repaired leaking boats. Strong hands believed small things matter most, in crumbs of care, not in the boast. They learned humility from standing last, from watching chances quietly pass. Strong hands bowed not in defeat, but in respect for every street. They knew the taste of delayed reward, of giving more than they could afford. Strong hands spent nights counting loss, still waking early, no regret, no cross. They held umbrellas over others' rain, letting themselves get soaked in pain. Strong hands shielded fragile joy, protected innocence, girl and boy. They learned balance from carrying weight, from walking narrow paths of fate. Strong hands didn't run from fear, they walked through it, step by sincere step, year by year. They held photographs like living breath, images stronger than time or death. Strong hands traced faces long gone, finding strength in holding on. They taught by doing, not by speech, by being present within reach. Strong hands whispered lessons slow, so roots would grow where storms would blow. They fixed what anger tried to break, calmed storms with patience, give and take. Strong hands turned conflict into ground, where understanding could be found. They learned that love is daily choice, not always loud, not always voice. Strong hands chose love on tiring days, in silent acts, in unseen ways. They carried guilt they didn't earn, held bridges others chose to burn. Strong hands paid debts they never made, accepted prices unfairly laid. They understood loneliness well, even in rooms where laughter fell. Strong hands stood firm in crowded spaces, wearing strength on tired faces. They knew success without a crown, built their kingdom without renown. Strong hands measured wealth in peace, in moments when the noise would cease. They trusted instincts shaped by pain, lessons learned again and again. Strong hands moved carefully, yet brave, protecting hearts they couldn't save. They faced betrayal without steel, chose healing over hate to feel. Strong hands let go without display, released the hurt and walked away. They held the dying with steady care, stayed when others couldn't bear. Strong hands learned life's fragile thread, between the living and the dead. They buried dreams with gentle hands, laid them softly in the sands. Strong hands mourned without a sound, still showing up, still staying bound. They understood that strength can bend, can pause, can rest, can slowly mend. Strong hands accepted cracks and scars, as proof they'd reached beyond the stars. They faced mornings without delight, yet rose again to face the light. Strong hands welcomed another day, even when hope felt far away. They believed survival is an art, painted in patience, shaped by heart. Strong hands held on to simple grace, when life refused to slow its pace. They closed doors gently, not in rage, letting go with quiet courage, age by age. Strong hands chose dignity over fight, over proving who was right. They stood between danger and the weak, without a badge, without critique. Strong hands became the unseen wall that stopped the worst from reaching all. They carried love in every vein, even when love returned as pain. Strong hands kept offering it still, a testament to stubborn will. They aged into wisdom, slow and kind, left bitterness far behind. Strong hands became softer, not less strong, just better at knowing where they belong. And still they move in memory, in air, in every life shaped by their care. Strong hands live on, unseen, unclaimed, in every good quietly sustained. Strong hands learned how to wait without decay, to trust slow seasons finding their way. They planted patience in stubborn ground, believed in roots long before they were found. They learned that effort is a form of prayer, repeated daily, honest and bare. Strong hands spoke to the earth and stone, in rhythms older than flesh and bone. They shaped their strength from ordinary days, from routine steps and quiet ways. Strong hands showed up when excitement fled, when duty was heavy and praise was dead. They held mistakes like fragile clay, learning gently what not to say. Strong hands forgave themselves at last, after wrestling long with the past. They faced regret without retreat, met it standing on weary feet. Strong hands accepted imperfect grace and kept moving at a human pace. They carried laughter tucked inside pain, found small joys in persistent rain. Strong hands smiled for the sake of light, even when the smile cost a fight. They remembered birthdays they couldn't attend, moments lost they couldn't mend. Strong hands learned love sometimes hurts, sometimes waits, sometimes deserts. They held on to rituals worn and old, even when belief grew cold. Strong hands honored what once was true, even when the world outgrew the view. They cleaned wounds the heart couldn't show, let time do what hands couldn't know. Strong hands trusted healing's pace, let silence finish what words couldn't place. They faced change like a rising tide, adjusted steps, not wounded pride. Strong hands didn't curse the shore, they learned new ways to swim once more. They kept promises whispered low, even when no one would know. Strong hands valued the unseen vow, more than applause or the public bow. They balanced hope with realism's weight, didn't dream blindly, didn't hate. Strong hands built bridges with steady care, between what is and what could be there. They knew exhaustion deeply, well, the kind no simple sleep can quell. Strong hands rested in moments small, in quiet breaths, against the wall. They faced mornings numb and gray, still choosing motion over delay. Strong hands honored consistency, the underrated art of being. They let go of pride piece by piece, found strength in humble release. Strong hands learned that control is illusion, and peace comes from careful inclusion. They carried stories they'd never share, not out of fear, but gentle care. Strong hands protected sacred pain, knowing some truths must remain. They loved without guarantee or shield, entered battles already healed. Strong hands accepted risk as price, for moments tender, warm, and nice. They turned disappointment into skill, into wisdom, into will. Strong hands used loss as teacher, not as jailer, not as preacher. They faced injustice with steady eyes, didn't always win, still didn't lie. Strong hands chose integrity, even when it cost security. They learned that strength can ask for aid, that leaning doesn't mean afraid. Strong hands reached out when needed most, breaking the myth they should do it alone. They offered apologies without defense, chose repair over stubborn pretense. Strong hands valued connection above pride, let healing walk alongside. They stood in storms they couldn't change, accepted chaos, learned its range. Strong hands stayed human in a hardened age, refused to turn their heart to cage. They carried faith without forcing belief, allowed room for doubt and grief. Strong hands trusted mystery still, left space for wonder, room for will. They learned endings are not a race, but part of time's unfolding grace. Strong hands said goodbye without blame, honored love without chaining its name. They carried presence like a flame, warm, not loud, never claiming fame. Strong hands left marks no eye could see, but shaped the world invisibly. They moved forward with quiet trust, knowing all things rise from dust. Strong hands believed in simple truth, that care survives beyond youth. They walked into twilight without fear, holding meaning, not the years. Strong hands knew when to slow their pace and let peace take its place. They became memory, example, guide, a living echo deep and wide. Strong hands remain when words are gone, in every courage passed along.